truth if we have to be dealing with our language.
Jerry John Rawlings was born in June 1947 in Accra, Ghana, to Victoria Agbotui from Jelikope Keta and James Ramsey John, a chemist from Castle Douglas in Scotland. On May 15, 1979, Rawlings and 6 other soldiers staged a coup d'etat against the government of General Fred Akufo, but failed and was arrested. On June 4, 1979,
he led 2 coups, first in 1979 before twice being elected president in multi-party elections. A charismatic figure seen as a champion of the poor, but also criticized for alleged human rights abuses. Founder of the NDC, first president of the Fourth Republic, former President Jerry John Rawlings died at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital after a short illness. Let's have a conversation as the entire nation mourns his death. Well, we will be having a conversation about his life, what his life meant to those who were closest to him, and also his contribution to Ghana's democracy. Our guest, Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng, political science lecturer with the KNUST, and a woman who was really, really close to him, Abby Bright, is convener, June 4 anniversary lectures. As you may also know, she's also the parliamentary candidate for the Tema Central constituency. A very good morning to you both. I'm not sure if it's a very good morning with the news of the former president's death, but let's start with you, Abby, because you were a convener for his June 4 anniversary lectures. So first of all, tell us about your connection with the former president.
Mama, I have to apologize. It's been a difficult week for me. And the difficulty is how I can express what Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings was to myself and my family, to all of us. He is the one person that I could discuss my security concerns with. And so yesterday when I heard the news, even though I had been distracted with my own life, like those of us around him, you know, just generally are so self-absorbed because we don't pay enough attention to him and his needs. So even though it was strange that we hadn't communicated in a few days, he appears so invincible because no matter his discomfort, he's just concerned about everybody else. It is difficult to imagine that, you know, it's because he is distressed. I don't think that even my security concerns would have gone to this stage if he was able. And the biggest proof that he is gone is in the lack of action, in the fact that things start to fall apart and there's no intervention from him. That was very rare. This is who he was. He would intervene in everything that he was able to. I remember in 2016 when I was poisoned for 3 months to elections, he would personally feed me from his kitchen. So this is the kind of father he was. And I don't know what Zaneto and the rest are feeling, but for all of us, we've lost a father. I was supposed to be officially his spokesperson, working under Mr. Andor in his office. But we had a discussion about what I wanted to do for Tema Central. And as always, in spite of the fact that we understood that his story needed to be told right and he needed to be represented properly, he conceded to Tema Central. He said, honey, there's not enough of you out there. You know, Zaneto is in Kole Klote. Stand for Tema Central. We need you there more than I need you. I grew up proud to be a Ghanaian living in Nigeria because the whole of Africa held this man up. We were proud of the intervention that he'd made in a terrible situation in Ghana. And a lot of what he's committed his life to talking about is just a warning that we seem to take too many things for granted. And that this peace and this environment we enjoy had to be fought for. And he wishes that we never came to the situation as a country where such an intervention as he had to lead, happened. It's very painful to see all your documentaries and painful to realize that probably, the real substance of his story hasn't been told. And that was the responsibility of some of us around him.
Well, what's the real substance of his life? What haven't we been told?
I, for one, would have liked to see his book finally come out so that we hear about the events of June 4th and preceding that and after. I would have liked to have everyone hear what has been on his heart and his mind, the motivation, the details that over time have been distorted, the space that he's conceded to some to glorify themselves at the expense, of truth. And there was a lot of that. But I also find that I understand him. It was easier for him to concentrate on the pain and needs of others than on himself. And I think that expressing his pain, was a very difficult thing for him to do. So on that score, I understand him. I'm hoping that in the next few days, we would get the opportunity, as he is not here, to distract us with ourselves, because that's what he tends to do. When it's about him, he pushes it back to you. If we have a meeting to discuss what we need to do to complete his legacy, to consolidate his legacy, his selflessness, defeats the purpose, because it ends up being a discussion about everybody else's problems. And that's what I was explaining earlier, that all of us just get used to draining his energy, that even when there's nothing left, you don't see.
Abby, stay with me for a while. I know you're in a lot of pain. Don't apologize for that. I know that you're in a lot of pain. There's a lot that has happened, over the past few weeks. And then this one coming up just yesterday. But Abby, please stay with me. Let me move on to Dr. Amakye Boateng. And I want to continue the conversation with you. When we say he is the first president of the Fourth Republic, explain the circumstances and how he got us to this whole multi-party system today.
Thanks for the opportunity. Ghana had gone through what I call a political merry-go-round from the time of independence until the advent of June 4th and eventually the PNDC. And in fact, the period that the PNDC covered saw political stability in Ghanaian politics. From 1993, January 1st, the coup occurred on the last day of 1992. So from 1993, January 1st until the onset of the Fourth Republic, January 1st, 1983, until the onset of the Fourth Republic, 1992, Ghana went through a period of stability. And here we credit, President Rawlings for that. And he took Ghana through the transition from the military regime. Some people capture it as a quasi-military regime, and then brought Ghana into a democratic dispensation. And as it is, he himself also participated in the political process, came out as an elected leader, as a democratically elected leader. bringing Ghana to this stage, he had to really go through a storm, really, because the instability that had bedeviled the country from the time of independence until he came onto the political scene was still, rife. People's understanding of capturing the state for good or for bad was still there. And everybody wanted to try, and there were several attempts to, capture the Ghanaian state in the days of the PNDC. So one major achievement was his ability to weather the storm, foil all the attempts that were made, the coup attempts that were made, maintain stability until it became, or the need came up for Ghana to move on. In the literature, some people put it that pressure was brought to bear on him. I differ on that because we still have the Eyadema dynasty in Togo right here. It was not only Ghana, any particular external power was interested in. You need to credit the person of the political leadership who took that particular decision, even coming as a former military leader. In a way, it was the signing of a death warrant if indeed he had done anything untoward. The moment he agreed to lead Ghana into democracy meant that there was going to be a time when he would not be in office. And definitely people who wanted to get at him would, get the opportunity to do so. So it was a bold decision that had to be taken. And you only do that when you have the interest of the nation at heart. So that is how come he came out as the first president of the Fourth Republic of Ghana.
Also divided opinion here in our country. Explain why.
It has got to do with essentially interest. Essentially interest. Politics actually is essentially driven by, among other factors, interest. And so the Ghana that emerged, from the days of instability and came out as the Fourth Republic, came with a particular character. And that nature of the Ghanaian state had opportunities for some people, and others saw themselves as not in an opportune situation, if you like, to push their own personal agenda through. So generally speaking, because politics, is driven by interest, those who feel in a way disempowered by the new Ghanaian state, the regime, which hinges on the constitution of the Fourth Republic, obviously will have cause to, blame J. Rawlings for all their woes. And then those who see, something positive in the new dispensation will also lend their support to it. But then one other factor that I think will also have to be considered has to do with how he managed to maintain political stability. The state had to be violent at times in order to stop people who wanted to capture the state for their own interests. So essentially, this interest that accounts for all these issues.
Abby, let me come to you. Can I ask when you last interacted with him? I know that the funeral of his mother was also just about 2 weeks ago. And indeed, when our Volta regional correspondent visited Jalukope, the family house, he was told that Mr. Rawlings had visited just last Sunday and had assured them that he was going to be back, so they will plan the 40 days of his mother's passing. And then now this news. Do you remember when you last spoke to him?
Yeah, that was, must have been about almost 10 days ago. Yeah, about. But, we would usually also WhatsApp and the rest, and that's been about a week or maybe 8 days. I'm not sure right now. I have to check. So that should have clued me in, but
do you remember conversations at the funeral? I think somebody did say that he was joking a lot and asking them to remain peaceful?
That, I mean, he was, and that's that thing about him. He was tired. I said to him, I said, Daddy, you're exhausted. He said, yeah, you don't know the half of it. And while he was saying that, he was throwing peanuts into his mouth. I mean, the last time I saw him, and that was after the funeral. I just want to thank the person that spoke before me. Please forgive me.
Dr. Amachi Boateng, he's a political scientist with the KNUST.
Doctor, thank you, because you said very succinctly what we would be saying if we're looking at his professional life. But as you understand, for me, this is if I were having a conversation with him right now about my difficulty, because I've lost somebody so, significant to me, he would excuse the fact that I'm a bit scattered, but he would not excuse, me not being here and focusing on what needs to be done. I am sitting here still on this journey, largely because of him, because he said to me that, staying the course in difficult times, like he had to. He's not a career politician. I don't think that he ever became by culture a politician. He stepped into a situation and he stayed the course in spite of the changing environment. And he said to me several times that it was as much a betrayal to retreat when the people still needed you, than it was to keep fighting, because you believed in it. So he wouldn't let me step down from Tema Central in spite of the difficulties. And I always knew that he was there. So I know that if I were having a conversation with him right now, that might be foremost, for us. And this is why I'm still here. I don't know how it's going to happen, because I feel like, that one last drink, I've seen the challenge in his eyes several times when I expressed the fact that this is coming at too much personal cost to me. He looks at me and in his eyes, you can see, you coward. And that is the one word that we can't associate with him. He endured so much abuse. Yesterday, I was upset because some of what continues to happen to this man is deliberate abuse to his person. If there was one advocate for COVID adherence to COVID prevention measures and all of that, it was him. He made sure all of us were sticklers for maintaining distance and all the things that would keep us safe. And then for people to start to say that he died of COVID-19, I think is absolutely disrespectful. Not because I'm speaking to marginalized, COVID-19 patients, but because that didn't happen. So why at this time would you seek to do this to him? Why can't we talk about the very real things for once in honesty? I don't have a lot of permission to discuss the personal experiences that he's shared with us and his motivations and personal pains. Yet I'm hoping that over the next few days, as the family gives us direction, we would step in to do what we owe him.
I think the bit about AB, I think the thing about the COVID was because of some revelations at Kolebu that he had just tested 2 days ago. A test for COVID came back positive, and he was moved from the cardio center to the intensive care. That was the narrative that came up yesterday.
Well, that is the narrative, but how do these narratives come up? And we keep wondering. He was tested twice because of his own obsession with COVID. He knew his pre-existing conditions. And, so he died at the cardiothoracic unit. That's not where we treat COVID. You and I know, this is the former president of this nation, for goodness sakes. Look at the facilities for COVID treatment. They're first class, as you and I know. Would he have COVID? He tested twice. If he was positive, and this is what was, basically leading to us losing him, I would like to think that Ghana would not condemn itself to be said to have not done its best for him. You know, at this time, this is totally unnecessary. At this time, it's okay. He's gone. They've killed him several times before now. But yesterday, it wasn't a joke when I heard it, because the proof that he's gone is in the lack of action. You know, he would always take action on anything. He was the last person to recoil and, you know, from a responsibility or perceived responsibility. If he's not here talking and we are talking and, you know, all of this without his voice, you know, in the present, that's proof that he's gone.
Abi,
and I think that out of respect, we should let it rest.
Abi, still stay with me. I'll come to you on how he was nurturing persons such as yourself and the intention that he had for the future. But let me quickly just go to Dr. Amakye Boateng. Doc, how do you think we should remember the former presidents? Hello, Dr. Amakye Boateng, if you're still with me and if you can hear me. Okay, unfortunately, I think we've lost Dr. Amakye Boateng. So let's stay with you, Abi Bright. Abi, he nurtured you.
I'm back.
Okay, Dr. Amakye Boateng, thank God. Abi, just hang in there, I'll come back to you. Dr. Amakye Boateng, my question was, how should we remember the former presidents?
Ghana has gone through
Oh, no.
Well, as we try to get a stable connection with Dr. Amakye Boateng, we're showing the picture on the screen is from the Jubilee House, where, as you can see, flags are flying at half-mast. That was the direction given by the president yesterday. But Abi, I was asking the kind of picture that he had for the future as he was nurturing yourself. There's also Zanato, and I don't know how many others were there or are there.
You see, hello.
Hello, Abi. Abi, Dr. Amakye Boateng, kindly just hang in there for me. Let Abi take this one and then I'll come back to you.
But just to say, I mean, he was an extremely honorable man. And that was one of the first things that, you know, endeared me to him, and would not, you know, I mean, under any circumstances, I thank God for his honor. What his nurturing of us was very interesting, because he first of all acknowledged the difference in the circumstances that we live under today. And so, of course, we weren't called up to lead a revolution, you know, with the military. But he was very interested in exercising our minds as far as the social condition presently is concerned. You know, he was very interested in challenging our hearts, you know, out of comfort. You know, he was the kind of person that couldn't sit still. He was always looking for where there was pain, you know, so he could step in. So it was a very proactive kind of nurturing. You know, if I wasn't paying attention to things going on around me, if I got a bit, you know, absorbed in, you know, a singular issue, you know, every morning was a challenge about things that were going on everywhere. You know, he was very interested in the global picture, and even locally in a more global, you know, outlook. He's one of the inspirations that took me beyond being a development communicator to start to study global diplomacy. And African culture and nature and narrative in that global picture is what I see, you know, what I'd seen pressing foremost on his heart. And he was hoping that we could have a future cadre of young people who were not only responsive to the immediate needs of our country, but were also able to establish the Ghanaian presence on the international scene by virtue of actually coming up with homegrown policies and leading the implementation of this to an extent that we were quite an example for others. This is a man that celebrated others more than himself. And maybe now that he's gone, we can veto him, after he's passed, we can veto all his efforts to keep from, being honored over and over again. He liked to celebrate, the strengths of others. He celebrated Thomas Sankara and his achievements in his country for however short a period that was. Then he celebrated himself. He celebrated us in this generation with fewer challenges than he had to contend with, in ways that even got people to be angry. Sometimes we had to explain to him why our environment needed him to be less effusive in his praise for our achievements. This is somebody that saw, I think, one of the disagreements, and yes, we did disagree a lot, and that was part of the content of our relationship. Part of my disagreement is I said to him that I don't understand how, as a young person, I'm a lot more cynical about my environment than you. You're way too optimistic. You can't have gone through all this and all this abuse and all this exposure, to the vagaries of this environment and still be so hopeful for, the best, that you're disappointed day in, day out. I think he experienced disappointment every single day. And some of the stories and the admonitions that he repeated over and over were because in his mind, action wasn't being taken in certain areas because probably you didn't hear or probably you didn't pay attention. And he was drawing your attention to it. And I think that every day he was disappointed by the fact that not enough attention was paid to saving the environment, to intervening in people's problems. Papa never had a penny to spare. And that's because he could never pay attention long enough to anything that concerned him. Immediately he had a penny, he remembered everybody else who needed something. This is the man that we should be talking about. That is what made him lead us for all those years. And I know that the political scientists and the social commentators will delve into all of those issues. But right now, I can only dwell on, the loss of such a mentor, such an inspiration. And I'm hoping that finally Ghana and this world will listen to his voice, the one that came from his heart.
Abby, I'll come back and talk about the future of the June 4 lectures. And then maybe if you can also give us a little peek into his relationship with the current president, as we know they were quite close. But Dr. Amakye Boateng, if you are still with us and if you can hear me, my question to you was how we should be remembering the man that we've lost.
Yeah, I was just saying that it is the Fourth Republic that is working. Ghana has been struggling to achieve this stability that I call democratic stability. Political scientists generally like to use the term political stability. Ghana has been struggling, and that really is still a challenge for many African countries. In the absence of that, you can't talk about development in any of its form. And if this indeed is coming from him, then definitely that is what, that cannot be taken away. That is forever going to be there, and his name through this is definitely captured in diamond. So that is it. He's bequeathed a major legacy to Ghanaians, stability on the basis of which development in all of its forms can start.
Dr. Amakye Boateng, not to cut you, but did we say that a lot to him when he was alive? Did we communicate that generally in this country?
Well, some of us are still working on some papers which are yet to come out, but we had opportunity to take our students, to go and meet him, engage him, and had a chat with him. On 2 occasions, we took final year students of politics from KNUST to visit him. Yes, we did have the opportunity to share some of these thoughts with him.
Okay. And then if you can also talk about his relationship with his party, the party that he founded. There's a bit of history to it because we didn't see him so involved in the party politics in his last days.
It's an interesting thing. The political party, NDC, definitely got founded on some ideals. The ideals that he cherishes so much. And I like to believe that he saw these ideals as not, if you like, permeating the core elements of the party, even after he was out of office. And some people, instead of exploring how best to achieve this, and interestingly, the NDC currently refers to its manifesto as the People's Manifesto. They're going back to the days of J. Rawlings, interestingly. And then they like to refer to themselves as a social democratic party. These are the ideals President Rawlings cherished. Social democracy cares for the vulnerable in society while allowing the entrepreneurs to make their millions. Social democracy makes sure that nobody goes to bed on an empty stomach. We have not seen this in the NDC. Of course, we didn't see that in J. Rawlings' NDC, but then the party had to, if you like, go through developmental trajectory and achieve that. Today, they're struggling to come back to power, and they're making claims about social democracy that has never manifested in the party. So why, what happened, and J. Rawlings somehow had to, in a way, take a back seat. These ideas were not manifesting. And I think those are the things, stuff like that he couldn't, deal with, the social justice in society. And once he saw his own party not addressing itself to it, definitely he couldn't deal with it. And I like to believe that it accounts for, if you like, the hot-cold relationship or the love-hate relationship that, we saw between him and the party in the latter days. I like to believe that this is to explain why, Madame Nana Kunadu, to make a big political statement, decided to form a political party. I told myself what was happening in the family when the daughter also joined the NDC and comes out as a parliamentary candidate. Then I felt for, Chairman Rawlings, because you can see, a lot of things, very powerful emotional things unfolding around him. And he managed, to keep all those interests going. And that was it. He couldn't help, see social justice not really driving the affairs of his party, the NDC.
Dr. Machi-Boateng, I grew up with these buzzwords: probity, transparency, accountability. Those are words that he liked to use a lot. How much of this or these standards exist today?
Ghana is still struggling, to achieve these values. They are values, that society cherishes. And those societies that are doing well around the world have these values, if you like, become established. They've entered into the normative traditions of those societies. We are struggling. So if you like, there are standards that we are, ascribing to achieve. For now, that is what I can say. There are values that we must eventually, be able to work with, to attain, to drive our society forward and to bring about social justice that society needs.
Let me go to Abi. Abi, what is the future of the June 4 lectures? Probably too early because this just happened yesterday, but if there's anything to share?
Well, as usual in our environment, his past, and suddenly we would not hear his own boom. And so I guess that everybody will see the value in the June 4th lectures. This is usually the case. Now people will start to pay attention to what we can salvage of his voice. Yeah, this is how I look at it. We're usually getting more attention, more respect, more recognition.
But what did it mean to him? What did it mean to him, the events past, in terms of the anniversary lectures?
Well, the anniversary lectures were something that we around him, came up with, because we kept fighting. We kept fighting to make sure that he understood that he should be involved in telling his story. I mean, I think it was his pain that that particular task couldn't be left to the consciences and the memories of other people. He didn't think that he had to take a part in forcing you to acknowledge the truth. And if you know, I think he tried to take it for granted that, you know, people were just truthful. And so that was his way of rebelling against being involved in telling, you know, a narrative that appeared to be coming from him again, or that seemed to be engineered from, you know, his own outfit. I think he might be more comfortable with the June 4th lectures, you know, after he has passed, because now it will take on a lot more, how would I say, of his person. It will be less focused on the rest of us, and it would allow us space to tie it into, you know, the past and what he was able as himself to achieve, because that is very important. The more we diminish him as a person, the less, you know, the example of his life is able to inspire us, you know, into the future. So I'm looking for a stronger direction for the June 4th lectures. I know that people will commit more to it, because I think it was easier for everybody to go to his office, to speak with him, to experience him as a person, as he was very gracious to allow all of us, than they wanted a specific event, you know, to go and talk. Jerry Rawlings as a person was more interesting to experience than anything else around him. But now we don't have him. And so we might be able to pay studied attention, you know, to consolidating his memory, you know, and continuing the June 4th lectures. The June 4th lectures, however, needs to take on, again, you know, more of a futuristic character, because the problems that we're facing today must have long-term solutions and outlooks. And that is also another direction that he was very interested in. So we're looking for more people to get involved. As for the question that you asked earlier concerning his relationship with the current president, I myself listened as the family, you know, went to inform him of the passing of our daddy. He said, our relationship could best be described as tempestuous, you know, but I think in later times, I have to paraphrase now this later part, we appreciated, you know, each other, something like that. I think it was a very revealing statement, because I think that the way that our politics is so divisive on partisan lines fails to make allowances for a statesman like President Rawlings, who didn't start out ruling or leading this country as a politician or as an elected president, but held this country together in all its tatters and pieces until they were able to usher in a new dispensation of democracy. So he is the father of anybody under this democratic dispensation today. And it is his responsibility to shepherd whoever, you know, is receptive, whoever will acknowledge his unique position. This is the one person that we have that supersedes, you know, all the political parties, you know, under this Fourth Republic. So I think that people need to appreciate the character of Rawlings and the example he set for us in terms of cooperation and just basically looking at the general development of the country, the nation Ghana, and his fight in it and for it has superseded, by every account, the formation of the NDC as a party or the existence of the MPP in its current form as a political party. And the direction that we need to be looking at, as an example from Jerry Rawlings, is the fact that the NDC was founded to deal with these values of probity, accountability, and transparency, and to offer those to Ghanaians as a democracy. And so the only use of the NDC is to uphold these values. And I think that this is all he challenges us to. However, as a party, NDC is not in Ghana in isolation. We're supposed to lead a stable democracy, as our own anthem, proposes. And so for every former president, it is his duty to shepherd the ruling government. It is his duty to ensure cordial relations with them. And first of all, I see him as a statesman. I think that he transcended just being the founder of the NDC.
Yeah. Let me let you have a say on this, Dr. Amakye Boateng, because he had such a unique relationship with President Akufo-Addo. And I guess the announcement of the 7 days mourning, the flags flying at half-mast, but also significantly the visit yesterday, same day that he died, to the Jubilee House by the family, the children and the elders, and the comments made by the presidents. Very unique. I mean, what kind of relationship did you see as you're a political scientist? How do you break it down for us?
It's an interesting thing. I recall whether during the 2008 electioneering campaign or 2012, President Rawlings referring to Nana Addo as the short man. I think it was 2008. And then leading to 2012, or was it 2016? Nana Addo visited President Rawlings again. And before then, President Rawlings talked about, having moved on, and so will not make those, if you like, references to Nana Addo again. What really happened, something might have taken place. But then you could see the cordiality. People speak of some sort of personal ties between them and Nana Addo, President Rawlings, Chachuchi Kata, some sort of personal ties behind, the scenes. And I think they were able to build on that and bring it forth, into the political sphere. And besides, just like AB said, President Rawlings had to move on and play the role, place himself above Ghanaian politics and play the role of a statesman. And I think when that, reality came to him and he assumed it and decided to, live that life, he was relieved, and it made it possible for him to relate to the MPP, and for that matter, to the flag bearer of the party at that time the way he did. I think he had moved on and not necessarily, choosing to stay, if you like, in that parochial sphere of partisan politics, and for that matter, the founder and leader of the party, and so openly supported. No, he decided to serve Ghana, and serve in that very high office, placing himself above politics.
Well, Dr. Kwesi Amakye Boateng, we really appreciate your time and your thought. Thank you for telling us a lot more about the former president. A.B. Brights, this is not the last conversation. We're mourning with you, and it's been a very difficult period in your personal life as well. So certainly, may God be with you as you go through these trying times.
Thank you. Thank you.
Most welcome.
All right. And that's A.B. Brights. She is convener for the June 4th anniversary lectures, very close to the former president.